An increasing global population, booming e-commerce, climate change, and congested megacities. Sustainability has become a prerequisite for doing business. Imagine what the world will look like 10 years from now. We want to offer solutions that are 100% safe, 100% fossil-free, and 100% more productive than today, because that will allow us to meet a growing need for transport while staying within the boundaries of what our planet can sustain. Nobody knows exactly what the future will look like, but we're eager to make it a great one.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome at today's event. I'm really excited to be here together with you today, and I think we have both a very interesting, but most important, very important hour and a half ahead of us. So thank you everyone for joining this event. As you also know, the world and societies are standing up front a number of very important and global challenges, and many of them are linked to infrastructure, to transportation, and to logistics. We see how they are linked to the effects on the climate change, on biodiversity, but also on congestion, road safety, and pollution and noise. But we also know how important transport, logistics, and infrastructure are to drive prosperity for different societies. We see how that is not only coming from prosperity in terms of financial and economic angles, but also as regards social inclusions. We see also how the mega trends around the globe are driving more and more transportation and infrastructure, and we know that they need to be considerably more sustainable. And as the world now are standing at a number of crossroads, collaboration will be very important, and it will also push not only societies and governments, but also global industries to rethink their strategies, to be relevant and to be winners for tomorrow. There is, and that is very positive, a broad consensus that we can mitigate the effects of these global challenges, but only if different actors are working together. Governments, civil society, industries, business, and of course individuals, acting together and acting now. And we who have gathered here today, we are actually representing different fields of society. The world is in urgent need of new business models, new innovative solutions, and to find them, we can only do that by collaborating together in tangible partnership. Steel makes up of a large part of the material we use in our products, both for buses, trucks, and construction machines. Just to take one example, trucks, 70% of the truck's weight is either steel or cast iron, and for our beautiful yellow machines in construction equipment, even more of the weight is actually steel or cast iron. So finding more sustainable way of producing and processing steel is a vital part of our journey up to a net zero value chain at the latest by 2040 on a global scale, both as regards downstream and upstream value chains. And by collaborating with the best and most innovative players in the mining and steel industries, we are breaking totally new ground for the industry, which of course will be the main event of today. And we embrace partnership as a way to accelerate innovation. By working together, we can collectively contribute of shaping the world that we want to live in. So ladies and gentlemen, partnership is truly the new leadership. And by that, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Mya Istanbouly, who stands next to me here, and that will be the master of ceremony and our moderator for today's event. So please, Mya.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Great to see you.
Well, we certainly have a full program for you today. We are glad and honored to be joined by leading representatives from the political sphere. The European Commissioner for Internal Markets, Thierry Breton, as well as Ibrahim Baylan, the Swedish Minister for Enterprise and Innovation, will share their thoughts on how partnerships with policymakers can accelerate our work. We will also talk to members of the Volvo executive management team, including our head of purchasing, Andrea Fuder, about the importance of thinking outside the box in order to create sustainability across our entire value chain. We will then take it from words into actions with two concrete examples of how we have taken a holistic approach to innovation together with our partners SSAB and Ovako. We will be joined by the CEOs of both companies and share with you today not one, but two incredibly smart world-first solutions. So let's start by listening to what Commissioner Breton has to tell us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I cannot be with you today in person, but I am extremely pleased to share my views about this groundbreaking project via this message. Standing in front of this vehicle, I see more than that. I see a turning point for our European industry. By launching here in Sweden, the world's first fossil-free steel vehicle, you are making green transition a reality. We should not be naive. This transition will be difficult, and I know and often share these concerns of EU employees and citizens regarding the economic cost of greening our economy. Let us not forget that in Sweden, automotive employment represents more than 14% of total manufacturing jobs. All employment in steel sectors represent another 4%. And this is why I would like to commend Volvo Group, SSAB, and all those involved in the hybrid project for showing the way. You are demonstrating in a brilliant manner that decarbonizing at industrial scale is possible. Decarbonizing here in Europe with European technology from mining to vehicle manufacturing. You are doing so through boldness, ambition, and innovation. Three essential characteristics of our European industry. Because it is bold to invest in green steel, while international competition so often focuses on cost only. And especially given the current energy price surge, which forces us to look even closer at all impact of the transition. Because it is ambitious to aim at mass producing not only zero-emission vehicles, but also vehicles with a low carbon footprint along the supply chain. And because it is innovative and vital to work in harmony across industrial ecosystems. Ladies and gentlemen, we must keep a strong technological leadership in Europe, from research and all the way to large-scale industrial deployment. If you take hydrogen, for instance, collaboration between energy-intensive industry and downstream players such as automotive sectors will be absolutely essential to scale up and create a market. This is exactly what you have achieved here by joining forces. SSAB and Volvo Group are not only helping fossil-free steel become a true reality and a standard, you are also leading the way for a new market for low-carbon products. I can assure you that the European Commission will help the industry keep momentum. We want to create a favorable policy and regulatory environment for the energy-intensive and automotive industries. For this, we need a hands-on and collaborative approach. And this is why we are supporting industrial alliances, such as the European Battery Alliance or the Clean Hydrogen Alliance, in which many of you are involved today. Our work here is absolutely crucial for removing the barriers to investment in new projects. In parallel, and as I speak, we are launching the process for transition pathways for the energy-intensive industry and for the mobility ecosystem. These pathways will help us navigate towards sustainable competitiveness. They will help industry to identify the concrete actions, commitments, and also the investment to unleash European industry's green and digital potential. Speaking of investment, we also need to mobilize resources, and of course, massive investment will be absolutely critical for the transition. The Innovation Fund, based on the EU emission trading systems, and of course, the recovery and resilience facilities can both play a key role in this respect. Member states are planning to dedicate 10 billion euros only to hydrogen, for example. We should also make the most of what we call important projects of common European interest. The Commission is currently assessing two of them, one on hydrogen technologies and the other one on its industrial applications. One thing is clear. We all stand to learn from your collective effort. And I can only wish that the next few months will see many of your projects emerging in Europe, because investing in disruptive technologies is investing in our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your encouraging message. Now, Martin, obviously Breton understands the challenges ahead of us. What do you think when you hear this?
But first and foremost, I think that the Commission has taken a very bold statement with the Fit for 55 journey, not only because it is ambitious, it is a must. We need to lead the way into a sustainable future, and not at least for the coming generations, right? And I think what he's mentioning is very important, that we need to act together to create a new platform for innovation and competitive landscape, right? Talking about a collaborative approach, talking about all impact of the transition needs to be taken into account in order to get to the value chains that are really sustainable for the future. And also the alliances on business level, but also together with the political leadership as one example. And we will hear more about that later today, obviously. So very good starting point to continue the journey that we will have here during the event.
Definitely, definitely. Now, Martin, you're going to be joining us a little bit later, but now I wanted to join Andrea Fuder, our head of purchasing. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Mya.
Now, Martin mentioned earlier Volvo Group reaching a carbon neutral value chain by 2040. Now, reaching this goal is going to be a huge undertaking. So what will it take for us to succeed?
Well, first of all, I would like to say failure is not an option, right? We have to succeed for this generation and for the generations to come. But it is a huge effort, and nobody can do it by alone. So it is about everybody has to start now, and it starts also with us.
Okay, but if it starts with us, what are we doing?
At Volvo Group, we have a clearly defined Volvo sustainability ambitious strategy. And we have as well approved science-based targets in place we are following. And by the way, everybody can follow that, right? So we have really put it into our business. But again, the key is that we collaborate on every level. And the science-based targets, they are really looking to the emission reductions from our own production facilities, our own sites, but also when we put our products into the market.
Okay. But you mentioned science-based targets a few times. Can we be a bit more specific here?
Absolutely. So what we have quantified is really how we reduce the emissions in our own sites, our offices, our plants, but also our dealer network. We are also looking into using only renewable energy. And when we think about the product in the hand of our customer, when it is in use, this is of course a huge part of our CO2 footprint. And here we have as well established clear targets which can be followed by everybody.
Okay, but it's great that so much is happening internally, but are we thinking broader than this?
Yeah, I think Martin said it very clearly. Of course, we have to take the whole value chain with us, right? And therefore, we have to take care about the emissions from all our partners in our supplier network and everywhere. So we really need everybody on board in this journey. Otherwise, it will not happen, right?
Right. But there's also some collaboration that we need to do as well, right?
Maya, you are so right. Everything is about collaboration because the whole ecosystem we are in needs to move. Yeah. Again, we nobody in this environment will achieve it by him or herself.
Right, okay. So we've established that collaboration at the highest level is going to be key. But creating a sustainable supply chain is much more than just becoming carbon neutral. Are we going to be able to operate within a circular economy?
Before I come back to your question, perhaps first, the sustainability ambitions we have defined are standing on 3 legs. It is about taking care about climate, emission reduction. It is about taking care about the people, human rights, and it is about taking care about resources. And here, Maya, coming back to your question, circularity is key. We cannot scale up volume in the way we have done it before. You know, more volume means more virgin raw material. We have to come to circular economy. And circularity is, of course, a lot about remanufacturing, refurbishment, but it's also about recycling, like, for example, using scrap in the steel production. And it comes with a lot of opportunities as well, because I think it is, for example, a business opportunity in many ways, and also even sometimes a cost opportunity.
Yeah. So I just want to touch on human rights for a second. How can we positively impact the lives of those working with our suppliers across our value chain?
Volvo Group is, for real, a human-centric company. So for us, it is super clear and non-discussable that everybody needs to be respected and everybody has the right to grow. And of course, this is a value we want to see at all our partners in our value chain.
When you say all of our supply partners, maybe I should point out to those who are watching that Volvo Group has over 50,000 suppliers. Andrea, what expectations do you have on them?
50,000 sounds a lot, but to be honest, this is the easiest part of it, because with this 50,000, we have contracts, we have constant dialogue, so we can be quite clear about our expectations, for example, in our supplier code of conduct. The by far bigger challenge is to come across the whole supply network. This is the challenge we have in front of us. And also here, we can never do this alone. We have to work together across the industry, and we have to be very loud that working sustainable is not a nice add-on. It is the key business enabler. Or if it's not baked into the business, it will prevent business.
Okay, but is all of this enough? When I opened the program, I mentioned that we've been thinking outside the box. I'd love for you to be able to elaborate on that for us.
I would say this event is a clear proof of thinking outside the box, right? Thinking outside the box is really, think about partner with the guys who share the same values, who have the same vision. And it doesn't matter where it is. Is it competitors? Is it supply partners? Is it institutions? Is it politicians? But partner up with the guys who want to achieve the same. Think outside the box. Also, it can sometimes come with new business model. So for me, this event is one of the think outside the box events with our supply partners Ovako and SSAB.
Yeah, and it's super exciting, isn't it?
I can tell you this is my passion. So super exciting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's take a look at these world first collaborations. We'll start with Ovako, an example of how we've been working with the steel industry in order to increase sustainability through the use of green hydrogen. Check this out. With us today, we have the CEO of Ovako, Marcus Hedblom, and Volvo's Chief Technology Officer, Lindqvist. Welcome, guys. So when did this collaboration start?
Well, actually over 50 years ago. That's when Ovako started to supply Volvo with steel for powertrain and chassis components.
So a long-term relation, Marcus, but this very project started approximately 1 year ago.
Yes. And what started it?
I think we have already reduced our CO2 emissions with about 55% over the last 5 years. And we are proud of that. We're a world-leading level, but we wanted to do more. So we started to look at our rolling process and heating before rolling. And we decided that we wanted to use hydrogen. And actually, when you produce hydrogen, you also produce oxygen. And we need more oxygen than hydrogen in our process. So we thought maybe we can do something with Volvo here. So we decided to contact them and see if they were interested to, utilize fossil-free hydrogen for their trucks.
Okay, okay. And you also have some plans for us as well.
Yes, we do. With this hydrogen initiative, we really want to achieve substantial and quick climate effect.
Great. So I know that you also have prepared an illustration for us that describes this.
Yes,
so maybe you can share it with us.
Okay. So here we have the electrolyzer. This is built in Hofors right now. It will be Sweden's largest and one of Europe's largest production sites for hydrogen and oxygen. We will use this in our steel mill to heat the steel before rolling. There will be some residual heat created in this process, and this we will make available for the local district communities. And also, this system can be run flexibly, so we can use this also for stabilizing the electricity grid system. And of course, not the least, this will also allow us to provide industry-produced, cost-efficient, fossil-free hydrogen for Volvo for the truck. So our plan now is to use this system and use them at all our sites up until 2030. And this will allow us to actually eliminate the carbon emissions from this process step and also allow us to bring carbon neutral steel to our customers already next year.
Great. You really have some impressive plans. Now, Lars, how important is this for Volvo?
Very important, and Ovako is a very important partner to us. And I must say, Marcus, it's very impressive what you and your team are doing to take out the fossil fuel from your entire value chain. We just heard Andrea talking about this. This is what we expect all our partners now to start to work on together with us in our entire value chain. So Marcus, hat off for that.
Thank you very much.
And you heard, Mya, that we are going to buy fossil-free hydrogen from Marcus then. And why is that? Because hydrogen will be a very important building block in our technology roadmap towards fossil-free. Because when it comes to propulsion of vehicles, we will rely on 3 technologies: battery electric vehicles, fuel cell electric vehicles, and combustion engines running on renewable fuels.
Right. And how far along are we with these technologies?
When it comes to battery electric vehicles, we are already in serial production. So full electric city buses, full electric compact excavators and wheel loaders, full electric trucks up to 26 ton for distribution and refuse applications. And next year, there will be heavy-duty Volvo battery electric trucks up to 44 ton. We are early out. We are pioneers here. I dare to say that we are creating the market as we speak.
I think so too. But if you maybe want to elaborate more on the heavy applications.
If we talk about heavier applications, really then demanding long haul and heavy construction, then I see more fuel cells as the sort of sweet spot, or the sweet spot for that technology, and then fuel cells running on hydrogen. We have set up a joint venture together with Daimler Trucks, a joint venture called Cellcentric. Cellcentric will develop and produce fuel cells. We will take those fuel cells, we will integrate them into our vehicles, and we will start to commercialize them in the end of this decade. But long before that, Mya, you will see these trucks, our test fleet on the roads, and then of course running, Marcus, on your fossil-free hydrogen.
Yes.
Excellent. So will we continue to use combustion engines?
Yeah, for commercial vehicles, there is definitely a future for combustion engines. For the most heavy applications, it's obvious that that is the best technical solution. But then running on renewable fuels, and one very interesting combination is combustion engines running on hydrogen. So it's rather clear for me that hydrogen will be a very important part of the puzzle towards a sustainable transport system. But then, of course, the hydrogen needs to be green. It needs to be at a low cost, and it needs to be distributed in an infrastructure close to where our customers needs it.
Right. So Marcus, can you really scale this?
I think we can. I think the industry can. This can be set up on a decentralized way. It can be used in steel industry, but also other industries. So I think with this, with industrial produced green hydrogen used in multiple locations, you can create a network that can make this green hydrogen available for the transport sector.
Okay. So back to you, Lars. So obviously this is a great collaboration. How important are these kind of collaborations going to be in the future for Volvo Group?
These collaborations will be vital because it's a way of learning. We will learn a lot together now when we start to operate the system and when we together will optimize the system. And I think that we also should be humble because this transformation, going into completely fossil-free, it's a huge challenge. And no one can do this on their own. It's about teaming up with old friends, finding new partners as well, and create this ecosystem of innovations that we need in order to get there, to a fossil-free transport system.
Wonderful. Now, earlier we listened to EU Commissioner Thierry Breton, and the Swedish Minister Ibrahim Baylan will be joining us in a little while. Marcus, what expectations do you have on the political arena for you to be able to achieve your goals?
I think there's a lot of good initiatives, both in Sweden and Europe, to meet the Fit for 55 targets by 2030. But I think the politicians need to maybe support us a bit more.
I think so too, and that's clear. Can you give me some examples, maybe two concrete examples that you see are absolutely needed?
I think the first one is that EU needs to be better at promoting carbon efficient production. And I think that needs to be done by increasing cost of emitting carbon emissions in EU and also importing goods with a CO2 legacy. I think if we get that in place, that would really support Ovako and also companies like Volvo to go towards a totally carbon neutral production. So that's the first one. The second one, I think, when we do ask for environmental permits and get approval for setting up these, equipments that are so needed for the climate, I think we need to have, quicker and more easy to run processes to really facilitate the quick change that we need.
Thanks, Marcus. That's clear. Lars, what are your expectations?
Well, I think that we dare to say that the vehicles as such will not be the bottleneck. I think that our politicians can take for granted that the vehicles will be there. I want them to focus much more on the energy side. There will be an enormous need for green electricity and for green hydrogen, and there must be an infrastructure so we can distribute it into a decentralized system. That is really what the politicians need to focus on.
Very clear, very clear. And let's take these points in mind when we speak to Ibrahim Baylan in a little while. So Man, can you please join us?
Absolutely.
So Man, what's your view on these kind of collaborations?
But first and foremost, you're getting very proud just listening in and what is happening. I talked in my intro about the need of tangible solutions. But also another thought that is coming to my mind is about, when we have been working with the science-based targets, really looking over what is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. From a first approach, that is very introvert in a way, because you're looking at your own impact. But when you realize that my scope 3 could be another scope 2, and when you start to see the opportunities, that it is not the flip side of the coin by collaboration, but rather reinforcing, so to speak, I mean, the excess hydrogen coming from a very good cause, and how can we utilize that in the best way? So, I mean, tangible solutions moving the needle forward, I think it's just energizing to listening to it.
I agree. Now, Andrea mentioned earlier an incredibly interesting collaboration with the steel company SSAB. So now we're going to join Martin Lindqvist, CEO of SSAB, and Mya Istanbouly, President of Volvo Construction Equipment. Mya, you're over in the Concept Vehicle Lab with Martin because I know you have some really exciting news for us today. So let me hand over to you.
Yes, Mya, this is exciting for real, and I'm excited as well. But Martin, I've seen you now walking around the whole morning, something very special in your hands. So why don't you tell us, what is it?
This is a piece of steel from the first batch of fossil-free steel ever produced. And SSAB produced this in July, and we delivered the first volumes, steel plates, to Volvo Group in August. So it's a fantastic piece of steel.
And then you sent it down to Braås, our plant in the southern part of Sweden. Actually, the first CO2 neutral plant in our industry. So you can imagine how proud they were, and also with what speed they started to use this very first batch.
And I can recognize that feeling because the proudness at Oxelösund when we were able to produce these first batches of fossil-free steel, you could touch it.
I understand that. So let's take a look what happened. I'm extremely proud to be here today, presenting to you the world's first vehicle made by fossil-free steel. For me, Martin, this is a proof of that we can make progress. We can make quick progress in partnership, and with strong partners, brave partners, and bold partners like you.
And we work quick together. Imagine, I mean, we delivered this steel to you guys in August, and today we stand in front of the first vehicle produced, and it's ready to be driven and started. So it's the speed has been impressive.
It's fantastic. And when it comes to acting, I think it's so important to act, not because someone else tells us to act. We act because we want, we act because we can, and we act because we must. Because I think this is so important for our generation, but even more important for all the coming generations. And all the decisions we take, all the actions we take now will influence the future heavily. I think this is an amazing product. It's 8.2 ton. It's more than 3 ton of fossil-free steel. It's fully electric, and it's fully autonomous. You talked about the speed, and the feedback I got from my team is also when it comes to the quality, the product properties, they are exactly the same as in conventional steel, so to say. And when we did our welding, when we did our cutting, we used exactly the same product processes, which is important then when we should start to scale. I must also say to our teams, both the SSAB team and the Volvo team, what a great efforts, and thanks a lot to all of you. When I saw this machine first time 2 weeks ago, then I felt this is for real now. this is happening. We can do it. And at that moment, I must tell you, that was for me very, very touching, actually.
Now, this is clearly an historic moment, and I understand your feelings, and I have the same feelings. And I think from SSAB side, we are extremely proud to be part of this partnership, and we are very much looking forward to future cooperation and things we can continue to do together.
And I promise you, the whole Volvo team and me, really looking forward to this as well. And I mean, we are celebrating today. We should celebrate today.
Definitely.
But we also know that we have a lot to do. But I think that journey will be tough, but it will be very fun, very exciting, and maybe challenging as well. But I think in this great partnership, I think we will continue to push the limits.
Definitely.
Yeah, Alexander.
Sure.
So I think, Mya, with Martin here, Melker here, and our new friend, I hand over to you again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Melker. Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Melker, for making this happen with your teams. An impressive and important achievement. This truly is a transformation within both our industries, and such a great example of how industries within different sectors can work together. Now, Martin, how do you feel about seeing this?
First and foremost, I feel the passion, the motivation, and even, I mean, that just is that, what shall we say more? We have this beautiful solution in place, and I think it's really touchy. I was down in Borås last week, met with some of the key players there, Marcus, that has been project leader in Borås, and feeling this beyond the normal business model is fantastic. So first and foremost, of course, the direct collaboration we have with SSAB, that is fantastic, but also to participate in this journey that the hybrid members actually started 4 or 5 years ago with a very bold decision. LKAB, one of the world leaders in underground mining, have been innovating that part, are now continuing to invest heavily into the sponge iron process, and thereby putting the prerequisites of producing fossil-free steel in the downstream processes of SSAB. But also Vattenfall, world leading also energy producer of fossil-free energy. So I mean, it's again another example of a true value chain cooperation. And that we had the opportunity to participate also for producing these tangible products is great, just so.
Yeah.
It's great. Great day.
Wonderful. I think it's great as well. So I'm touched as well. So when I mentioned what I said earlier was that this was a great example of how industries within different sectors can work together. But all industries are impacted by the political environment that they operate within. And since both companies are based here in Sweden, we brought in Ibrahim Baylan, Swedish Minister of Enterprise and Innovation, to talk with us. So Martin, I'm going to hand over to you and Minister Baylan.
Thank you, Mya. So let's see if we will have Ibrahim, our minister, here on the link. If we can see that we are getting contact with him. And Ibrahim, obviously, as both Minister of Industry and Innovation today, but also as Minister of Energy before, has been since long participating and supporting these type of innovative projects in Sweden. So,
we don't have Baylan, it's a technical issue.
Okay, so we are waiting a little bit then. But again, then maybe I can just say that what we have been discussing is, of course, a lot what Lars and Marcus addressed. How do we now, with these very concrete examples, creating also the necessary platforms that is a true collaboration between the political leadership, the business leadership, but also other actors, not at least authorities, creating visibility and creating clear frameworks, because a lot of these investments need visibility into the future, where we can also make sure that our capital allocation, our investments are put in the right direction. But we are sharing the vision, not only in Europe. We see also how this is moving in the same direction in North America, in many of the major Asian markets, China, Japan, down to Oceania, so it's a truly global movement. But at the end of the day, with these global trends at the end of the day, is also about having tangible cooperations in countries and regions. And that is what we are aiming then to discuss with Ibrahim if we have the chance to see him here in a couple of minutes. Okay. Now, so we don't have Ibrahim with us. It is a technical issue, unfortunately, but we will of course connect and link up with him at a later stage here.
Okay, well, as you said, it's time for us to wrap up. Now, when I opened the program, I said that we were going to have a really intensive program. So, Martin, how would you summarize to those who are watching what we've been talking about and what we've been looking at today?
No, but I think the world, and I mean us as individuals, we really feel that we need to accelerate much more into a future and shaping the world that we want to live in. And how do we do this? I mean, of course, we have discussed a lot about the visions for the future. Fit for 55 is a very concrete example on a European level. We have a number of very clear and bold visions for Sweden as a country. But we also see, as I started with in my introduction, that transport and infrastructure is a very important part of the solution in order to get there. And what we wanted to create with this event was bringing down these overarching visions that we all stand behind into very tangible examples on how we can collaborate together, from political leadership, from businesses that have been collaborating but are coming even closer together. And by the way, what I see now is that when we are coming out with these solutions, there's a great interest among our customers, but the customers that are actually steering the logistical systems for the future in retail, in construction. I had a great conversation with Marcus and Martin yesterday about, I mean, how do they think about their inbound and outbound logistics? How do we think about it? So at the end of the day, what you see here is that it is about the circular economy. How do we utilize the strength of everyone in the value chain and create 1 + 1 that is actually 5 or 6 for the climate, but also for driving prosperity in all shapes and forms. And I think both the collaboration we are doing on the hydrogen side, that is super exciting, and where we'll see now that this is also starting points from the bigger industrial sites that are taking very, very bold actions on the production processes, how we can also interconnect this now into the cities, into different type of transport flows. And of course, also the fossil-free steel journey, and how cool it is. I mean, we feel there's also an attractiveness also among, I mean, talents and colleagues around the globe who really want to participate and make this happen. So again, I mean, I cannot only summarize more than say that the partnership is the new leadership.
Great, but apparently we have Baylan. So
good.
I'm going to leave it over to you again.
Okay, then. Hello, Ibrahim.
Hello, Martin.
Great to see you.
My pleasure as always, Martin.
And if I may start, I just said that you have both in your role as Minister of Energy and now lately then as Minister of Industry, Enterprise and Innovation, participating from your political leadership role into these different projects. I mean, now when we are presenting a product and solution when it comes to the fossil-free steel, but also based on fully electric or fuel cell electric platforms, also the collaboration both with hybrid SSAB, LKAB, but also with Ovako, etc. How do you feel about it?
Well, you know, I'm tremendously happy, Martin, because you know when you have an idea and you have entrepreneurs coming to you with their ideas, people tend to be a bit skeptic from the beginning, and people tend to underestimate how fast things will move. So seeing these processes from the beginning, as you were mentioning, supporting them with really not much support from the beginning, monetarily, I mean, and seeing these projects now becoming full-scale industrial projects that will scale up the coming years and have such an impact on our footprint, climate footprint, but also obviously building new opportunities for growth and job creation. That obviously makes me tremendously happy to be a Minister for Industry in Sweden.
But when you think about it, I mean, as a Minister of Industry, you have, of course, a very important role to play together with your team about setting up, you know, the playground, different type of frameworks, etc. How do you look upon that? What are, so to speak, the things that we really need to accelerate together in order to not only present a great solution now that we will start to industrialize, but to really scale it up? What will be your role, and how can we support you in that role?
Well, let me just start by what you're mentioning, the last in your remarks, Martin. I mean, the collaboration in Sweden, I think, is a very, very strong precondition. The collaboration between government, industry, academia, but also between companies in the private sector is obviously, I think, a very important precondition. The second is obviously to provide our entrepreneurs with the right conditions, be it financially, be it infrastructure, trains, roads, etc. Electricity. Clean electricity is at the heart of the climate transition, obviously. If it's in the automotive industry, the steel industries, it's the same, I would say. Skilled labor, I think that will be one of our main challenges the coming years. Initially, it was how to finance these new ideas, these new projects. But I mean, money financially, it is becoming stronger and stronger, I think. But to provide with all the other preconditions, we are very focused on. And just to add the one lastly, to change also our processes. Not change how we value nature or clean air or clean water, but to make them more robust, to fasten them up. I think that is possible, and it is also, I think, could be also a way for us to also decrease our bureaucracy and make our bureaucracy much more efficient than it has been the recent decades.
No, and I think you are into something that we also have discussed here, because we have had a number of meetings around this event also, obviously. And one of the things that is often coming up is how can we together collaborate, never ever, of course, compromising biodiversity and everything that we stand for from a value perspective. But at the same time, obviously, make sure that climate change and biodiversity, that goes hand in hand, because I mean, to have a planet for the future and already now, we need to have both, obviously. But the climate change needs, as you say, acceleration, and the permission process is one of the key factors that I think. How we make that even more transparent. We are looking forward to support, collaborate, be transparent, and to get that certainty, obviously.
Well, we are reviewing, as you know, Martin, we are reviewing all our framework today. Be it in our processes, or when you look out at that, how you can start both, for example, a new mine, or try to recycle what we have already dug up, and at the same time, reviewing the framework is one part of the job. Equally important, or even more important, Martin, I would say that how we implement this framework is at our authorities, at our courts, I think is equally or even more important, because politically, as politicians, we tend sometimes to focus on the framework, the legislation, and when we have taken a new step in the parliament, we tend to be satisfied. But I think we need also to continue to follow how it is implemented and at our counties, our municipalities, our national, our authorities at the national level. So from my point of view, this is equally important. And as you are saying, not by saying that biodiversity or clean water or clean air is not equally important, but I think we could both defend these kind of core values and at the same time fasten up our way of doing things. I'm totally convinced that it is possible.
And I think, by the way, that this transition is showing us that. I mean, Martin and Melker showed Martin Lindqvist from SSAB together with Melker from Construction Equipment when they discussed about the new vehicle, talked about exactly that. of course, have made this with speed, but we have not compromised functionality or quality or wear and tear and all the characteristics. And that is the same here, if you take it in the bigger schemes. But one angle on that, Ibrahim, when you look upon the transition, how important will price be, that you have a price on carbon, in your view?
Well, I mean, our experience, Martin, as you know, we introduced the carbon tax in the beginning of the 1990s, one of the first countries in the world, and you might remember the controversy at the time. But it has, I think, played, and I think we could agree today that it has played a very, very important role for making, for example, the Swedish heat sector more or less fossil-free. It has made our industry much more efficient, I would say. And at the same time, we know that the carbon pricing, or the ETS in the European Union, plays more and more important role. There are debates and discussions about the global carbon taxing. Obviously, that carbon pricing, obviously that would be ideal, but I think we cannot expect it to happen in the coming decades, because these kind of global deals take time. But I mean, it has been, and both, I think, for the reason why we are now one of the most innovative countries in the world, why we are not enough, but we have the highest share of renewables in our transport sector. Our industry is much more energy efficient than many other countries, and so I think it has carbon pricing or carbon taxing is the right way, technologically neutral, but I think to expect this to happen on global level, I think it's too much to expect.
But just to be clear, we are all behind you in that opinion, because we think that to put a price on carbon is also to value prosperity when it comes to biodiversity and climate change, obviously. So I think continue to develop that for other sectors. That is for 55 is important. So good to hear. And I also have to say that when it comes to the collaboration with the Swedish authorities in many shapes and forms, Marcus mentioned that also very good collaboration when it comes to how do we interact, because we see that in order to get to this innovative, we need to interact much quicker. We need to iterate different type of solutions, right? And one of the overarching themes for today has been this end-to-end view. Is the political, I mean, you are outspoken and sincere minister with deep beliefs in, collaboration. Is the political system end-to-end oriented today as it is set up, or is it too much of silo still?
I would say that we work better than we have been doing, but not enough, I would say, Martin, because as you know, our way of doing things, not only in the political system, but normally is to focus on a silo at the time. And at the same time, we know today that the technological development, the need for climate change, the need to make the transition and mitigate climate change requires of us that we work more horizontally, and we do it faster than we have been doing before. So obviously, I would say, well, we work better today than we have been doing, but not enough, both at the government, the parliament level, but also when we look at our authorities and our agencies.
And Ibrahim, I mean, in a couple of weeks here now, or a couple of months, you are actually stepping down as minister after a long-lasting career that you have served in a lot of different roles, and you will pursue a new career, obviously, with all the experiences. But I mean, if you had this magic stick now, and you said, okay, now I have 3-4 weeks to go, what should you do then? You could do three things. What should you do then?
I would, if I would have been granted one wish, Martin, I would wish that we could work better together in the political system to create this long-term conditions, the long-term stability that I think is needed when you're doing this kind of huge transformation in the automotive industry, in the steel industry, in the pulp and paper industry, all over our society. And my one wish is that our friends and Moderaterna and Christian Democrats would return to the work in the energy group, because as you know, Martin, energy is at the core of the problems we have created with the climate change, and is also at the core of the solutions. I mean, the situation where we are now with a huge debate will not create anything positive. So that would be my one wish: better collaboration within the political system, and a return to the way we worked with the energy issue the last term, because I think it was very, very good for the political system, but also I think for the country. What would I wish more? More of collaboration between the private sector and the government, even though we are working better than ever, I would say.
Absolutely.
It's still not enough, I would say. And least, I would also wish to see more of collaboration globally between countries, because the polarized situation that we have today, I mean, we know that the climate change will have an effect on all of us. Because we live on one planet. And the polarized situation that we have been seeing for the last 5-10 years with protectionism, with crazy ideas that we have been, we used to do things in that way, and there were no solutions. So there would be a red line between what I'm talking about, or something. A theme is better collaboration in the country, globally, and obviously also between the private sector and the political sector.
But you can count on us, Ibrahim. We are all in for that. And not at least when we are standing up from the transformation. That is not a contradiction, but long-term conditions will actually accelerate transformation. And often that is actually forgotten, that when different actors in this transformation is feeling, that there is a clear visibility, acceleration will happen, capital allocation, innovation, talents will come to join you, etc. So there is something magic in what you're saying, these long-term conditions, right?
Exactly, Martin. We could see it for real. I mean, in reality, for the last term, when we could agree upon a common ground when it comes to energy policy in the country, we saw huge investments being done in the country in a way that we haven't seen for decades. So, and this could be created, I think, for a lot of sectors. So I would, if there is something I would wish for, is a better will to understand each other than the current situation of polarization, where you always misunderstand everything that could be misunderstood, because for a small country like Sweden, that will not be a way of doing things. Not if we want to, and I think all people want to have a good future for the country. I think that would be to wish for.
That's great. Thank you for that final words also. I think that is a good summary also, what we try to show also with some of the tangible projects that we are pursuing. Thank you very much, Ibrahim Baylan, our Minister of Industry and Innovation. And also from all of us, in a couple of months here, great luck also on your future career. And thanks for all support.
Thank you very much, Martin. And good luck with the day.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Well, it's great that we managed to get a hold of Ibrahim after all that time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always about that, that live is live.
Yeah.
But that makes it more interesting also.
It does. It's a bit more dynamic.
Yeah, a little bit more dynamic.
Exactly. So I know that we started to wrap the program up a little bit earlier, but I just want to reiterate, if there were 3 key points that you wanted to highlight from today's broadcast, what would they be?
But first and foremost, I think a lot of the, if I may say so, even a little bit cynical buzzwords that we are normally utilizing in different shapes and forms, partnerships, ecosystems, end-to-end, a holistic view, no negative flip side of the coin, etc. I think actually the examples that we have brought up today is showing that in reality. We are often ending different type of conferences when you're somewhere talking about, political leadership, civil society, business, individuals, authorities, academia needs to work together. I think we have showcased that this is the case. Hybrid, for example, started as a collaboration project between 3 leading actors with governments to show the way with some of their ideas about the future. Academia has been involved, etc. The same goes for the whole story about the hydrogen and the oxygen and how the balance looks in the case between that Ovako has pursued as another example. So if anything that we want everyone to feel about this is that the future is here now. We are extremely eager to be part of shaping the future that we want to live in. And we know that it's good for society, for the planet, coming generations, but also for business, and thereby having the means to invest. And we hope and think that that will attract a lot of great talents, like yourself, by the way. So, I mean, I think that is what I take with me after an event like this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. So we've reached the end of the program. We'd love to thank you all for joining us today.
Absolutely. And just take the opportunity to thank everyone that has been participating. Not at least Mya, who has guided us through this event. It has been absolutely fantastic. And as I said, also one of our great talents in the group, working in construction equipment. But also, of course, Martin and Marcus from SSAB and from Ovako, and all the partners around these corporations also, as we have mentioned, in the hybrid project, for example. But also all my colleagues here. So I hope that you have enjoyed the day and hope that you're feeling energized to participate in this journey together with us and to shape the future that we want to live in. Take care.